So you want to get funded? Well, in today's video, I want to provide you 5 useful tips to incorporate on your journey to get funded. And it's not going to be all the traditional stuff that you hear everywhere, but these are 5 things that I recommend to all traders who want to get funded. Now, I don't know what your personal situation is as you're setting out to get funded, but in many cases, what I see unfortunately from students and from aspiring traders is that they are putting all on getting funded. What I mean by that is they don't have any other forms of income, they don't have a business, they don't have income streams. In many cases, they don't even have a live account themselves, and they're just putting it all into getting funded. And that puts a serious amount of pressure on your trading. So what I would say to you as tip number 1 is have your own live account. Let's say the funding challenge is going to cost you $500. Have a live account worth double the funding challenge. So let's say that's $1,000 and trade that live account for a while. Now, the benefits trading on this live account is 1, you're going to be making money providing that your strategy is profitable. And in the meantime, you can begin building a track record of live results. Having a track record of live results is going to open up many opportunities for you in future. Once you get funded accounts can often come and go. You might ace a challenge and have no record of it, right? You do the challenge, you do exceptionally well on it, you get funded, whatever. That challenge account that you've done really well on, that performance has effectively disappeared. If you're trading that alongside a live account on your own money, you can link up something like a MyFX book, and over the years, as you trade your funded accounts, you trade your live account as well, and you build up a nice positive track record of live results whilst you're on your funding journey. Now, this also means that through your challenge phases on the funded account, whether it be the Mavin 1-step or 2-step challenge, you're actually earning real money at the same time, which is always nice. Now, tip number 2 would be to ensure that your strategy is capable of passing the funded account. Now, it's very easy to do this. Take your strategy, define it into rules, and back test it over the past 5 years, just as an example, and work out over those 5 years using your back tested data how many times within a year you would be able to pass a funded account. Make sure you'd be able to hit the target, make sure you'd be able to avoid the drawdown restriction. This is going to give you a very good expectation of how achievable passing that funded account actually is. I would suggest that the strategy you use to get funded should be able to pass a funded account at least 3 times within the space of a year. So go over your historical data and the assets you trade on the strategy that you trade, test that over 5 years, and just look at how many times you manage to hit the profit target without violating the drawdown limit. Now, perhaps after testing 5 years, you discover that every year, if you took 6 challenges, you would only pass 2. I would say that is absolutely fine. As long as your strategy is able to pass challenges every single year, preferably more than 1 in 5, I would say you're good to go. Ideally, we don't want a strategy that you could set the funded challenge 10 or 15 times and maybe only pass it once or twice. That's going to lead to you spending a lot of money on challenges. Now, tip number 3, and this is a big one, use a trade copier. Now, there are many trade copiers out there, softwares. I personally use the Social Trader tools, but what this allows me to do is copy trade directly from my live account onto my funded account without any extra effort. If you're just solely trading on a funded account challenge, not only are you not going to be making real money during that challenge phase, but you also have all of the added pressure of having to monitor and look at that funded account every single day. If you simply deposit a few £1,000s into a trading account, like I suggested earlier, and you trade that as your main account with just a trade copier to copy those trades over onto the funded account challenge, that means the numbers and everything that you're going to be dealing with on a daily basis are going to be much more manageable for your emotions. A 1% loss on a $1,000 account is only going to be $10. So if you take a couple of losers in one day, ultimately it's not going to affect you too much. It's not going to be the end of the world. However, if you're sitting there looking at your funded account and you're seeing that you're 2% down and you're getting closer to the drawdown limit and all the rest of it, that's just going to add a lot of unnecessary and unneeded pressure, which isn't going to help you towards that goal. So if you can focus on a smaller live account, connect up that trade copier, not only is it going to be less work for you to manage copying trades between accounts manually, but it's also going to be much easier on you on a day-to-day basis. It's going to allow you to focus on just simply trading well and executing your strategy on a live account that has no restrictions, and let the strategy play out. So tip number 4, do not go straight for max funding. It can be very, very enticing and attractive, I know, when you look on Mavin's website and you see that 500k account and you think, I could be literally weeks away from being funded with $500,000. But wait, don't get greedy at this stage. You can't afford to be greedy at this stage. If you're just looking to get funded and you go and spend all of that money on a max funding challenge, what happens if you fail it? Do you have the capital on standby to be able to reset that challenge if you fail it the first time? In many cases, the answer is no. So what I would recommend, instead of spending thousands of dollars on the max funded account, I would recommend going for something like a 50 or even a 100K account, which is going to cost significantly less. And for the price of a 500K challenge, you could have multiple attempts at the funded challenge. We have to be realistic here. I know you're excited and I know you have a lot of belief in yourself, and that's great, but we need to be realistic. In all likelihood, you're not going to pass it the first time. I know from my own personal experience, I have sat many funding challenges, and sometimes it's been more than 3 attempts before I finally get that pass. Had I gone all out for the max funding from the get-go, I would be thousands and thousands of dollars in the red before I get that pass. It's much better to start with a smaller account size, and if you fail that challenge, you have the capital on standby to take another attempt and then a further attempt. And then once you've passed that and you begin to take payouts, you can then use those payouts and reinvest them back into getting a larger funded account, and before you know it, you're already up at that max capital. But start slow, start conservative. Slow and steady wins the race. I didn't promise you that this was going to be quick and easy. Anything that's quick and easy is not worth having in the first place. But all the best things, especially in trading, take time, patience, and skill. So keep your head screwed on and commit to this process. So the final tip here is simply shoot to win. I see many traders being overly conservative on their funding assessment. They're risking like 0.25 or 0.5% per trade. And ultimately what ends up happening is at the end of every month, they're in a small amount of profit, and they end up for months and months and months on end seeing very little progress on their funded assessment. Remember, the objective here is not simply not to fail the challenge. The objective here is to hit that profit target and to pass the challenge. Now, the more data you have historically on the performance of your strategy, the extent of the drawdown periods and that kind of thing will allow you to make an educated decision on how much you should risk on the funded assessment. But typically, I would recommend risking a little bit more than you traditionally would, as long as it's still within the realms of good risk management. As an example, I may risk 1% on a funded account. On the assessment phase, I will traditionally risk 2%. Now, although that does increase my likelihood of failing the account, since my strategy has a positive edge, it actually increases my likelihood of passing the account more than it does of failing the account. But how do you know this if you don't have the historical data on your strategy? And this is where we go back to that second tip of ensuring that your strategy is capable of passing the funded assessment. When you test your strategy over the past 5 years to see how many times you would pass the assessment, you may find that you only pass once every year. Rerun your back test with double the risk and see how many times you would pass it now and how many times you would fail it within that time period. This is going to give you a good idea of just how much you can get away with risking on your funded assessment while still maintaining good risk management but increasing your probability of a pass. And so in closing here, one bonus tip would be to manage your expectations and be realistic. When approaching the funded assessment, your objective is not to be funded next week or even next month. Your primary objective is to trade consistently and to trade well using a strategy you know is effective and is going to get you over that pass threshold. Now it's just a matter of executing consistently and letting the probabilities play out. And so that wraps up this video on 5 tips to help you get funded. If you enjoyed the video, please do drop it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm going to be on here every week to provide you tips to help you in your journey, whether you're trying to get funded or whether you're already funded and trying to withdraw those consistent profits from the market. As always, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.